So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains. It's me again for another For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Another day, another podcast, another transfer link, another. I don't know whether I'm going to call it a concrete transfer link or whether it's going to be dubious transfer link, but it's definitely a transfer link for a player that we are familiar with because it ain't the first time that we have been linked to this player, and that player is indeed Josh King, former Hull City striker, former Manchester United trainee, former Bournemouth player, most recently, I suppose, with Everton in the Premier League, and didn't pull up any trees under Carlo Ancelotti. But somebody we know that Dean Smith potentially tried to sign last season. It was rumoured that he was trying to sign him. It was also rumoured he was trying to sign Callum Wilson. So sometimes the lines can get blurred there with reportings, but it has been rumored that Dean Smith is going back in again for Josh King, who is a free agent as of now. As I mentioned, he was linked with a move last season, but this one seems to have come out of left field because it was reports in Turkey that were claiming that the King could be next, and it was potentially that he was supposed to be going to Fenerbahce. And a reporter in Turkey, whose name I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because I will make a mess of it, has said that no longer is the case because the player himself is on his way to Aston Villa, which really has been the zenith of the reporting of this link or this potential transfer so far. And I wanted to take a quick look at Josh King because of all the players that we've looked at so far, and probably of all the players that we've spoken about over the course of the year or even last year when we were doing some transfer stuff, obviously not to the level that we're doing now, this one has probably been the most polarizing. It's one of the ones whereby I've looked at him and I've had to try to make myself as objective as I possibly could. I had to want to come into this without the viewpoint of I haven't a clue what this guy brings to Aston Villa. And that's okay too. I come onto these podcasts, I come onto these streams, and I look at players and I talk about players, and I am very, very positive. And I'm not 100% down on Josh King. But what I want to do is I wanted to take a look at him from the point of view of what does he bring to Aston Villa under Dean Smith's system. Always important. Don't scout the shirt that the player is wearing. Scout the player that's in the shirt. That's the rules. That's what I always say, is that the player has traits. Those traits may not transfer when he plays for certain teams, and you want to check and see what those traits are. Try and find maybe a commonality. Try and find maybe something that you think that, okay, Dean Smith is looking to add more of this into our team, even if it is off the bench, even if it is an option, even if he's just going to be an option player. Dean Smith might be looking at trying to inject something like this into our team, and with the relative I suppose the no transfer fee, considering that he is likely to be a free agent, that this might be a win-win situation for Dean Smith, and that might be something he would be thinking of. So I'm going to take a quick look and see who actually is Josh King. As we know that, just to give you a bit of a background, he's a Norwegian international. Last played, as I say, for Everton. He is 29 years of age. So he's 29 and a half years of age. By the time the season starts next season, he will still only be 29, turns 30 on the 15th of January, and he was born in Oslo. His height ranges anywhere. It's very, very difficult to get a correct height on players, and this is hilarious because depending on what site you go to, I've seen him at 5 foot 10 inches. I've seen him at 6 foot 2 inches. Now that's a big disparity. So somebody should be able to give us the definitive on that, but doesn't seem to be out there. It seems to be very, very much up in the air as to what height he is. Predominantly plays in the forward positions, whether it be from the left wing or plays as a central striker. As I say, he came up through the Manchester United Youth Academy, was there from 2008 to 2013 with a couple of loan spells in between. Preston, he was on loan in Mönchengladbach for a while, so it does have some continental training under his belt as well. Went to Hull City in 2012 and also played at Blackburn in 2012 as well. And then he had a full-time move to Blackburn where he scored 3 goals in 56 appearances. And then he left Blackburn in 2015 to join Bournemouth. And that's where he's done the majority of his work. Scored 48 goals in 173 appearances. And that's between Championship and the Premier League. Obviously, he had an ill-fated move to Everton last season, and his move to Everton yielded 11 appearances, of which only 5 were starts, and he unfortunately had 0 goals. Had very, very few minutes last season as well. I think it was only like 740 minutes. But as always, I do have a stat sheet on Josh King, and we will be looking at that in a moment. His international record is 17 goals and 54 appearances for Norway as well. But he was, like, as I say, he's kind of one of these enigma players whereby he has been shifted out in the wide positions. He's very much a frontal utility player is what I'm going to call him. Does play an awful lot from the wide positions, can play central as well. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a quick look at what he actually offers. Remember what I said at the start of the podcast? What can he offer to Dean Smith? What are his traits? What are the traits of this player? I don't care what jersey he wore, whether he was poor for Everton last year or whether he was really good for Bournemouth in one season. I want to look and see what the actual player does and can he add something to Dean Smith's system, because as we know, not the variables going from one team to another and having one manager over another are so vast that players' performances can fluctuate, and especially somebody who may be somebody whose performances may not be predicated on latent talent like Josh King's, may be predicated on hard work, may be predicated on something that he is actually very, very good at. He's very, very fast forward is something that I've seen, and maybe Ancelotti's style of play last season. His ponderous build-up play, getting the ball to Alan and to Andre Gomez to play maybe longer raking balls to Josh King, whereby they had to, maybe manufacture crosses into the box for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Especially in the early part of the season, maybe that wasn't something that that suited Josh King's style. So let's take a look at him, as I say, and we will see if there is anything here that tickles our fancy from that point of view. So just give me one moment and let me share my screen. So now as I mentioned, I do have a stat sheet on Josh King. So as I mentioned, he plays from the left-hand side and in the centre forward position. As I say, his height is up for debate. I'm going to say anywhere between 5'10" and 6'2". He's predominantly right-footed, which, as we know, seems to be kind of the flavour of the month. Well, I suppose maybe the flavour of the decade is playing alternate-footed wingers on either flank. So left-footed wingers on the right flank, right-footed wingers on the left flank, so they can cut in and score goals more so as deep-line forwards than actual wingers themselves. So a couple of similar players that the statistics have thrown up similarities to, based on stats over the last 3 years, have been Jordan Ayew, someone who we're very, very familiar with as well, and also Ollie Burke, former Nottingham Forest, former Leipzig, former West Brom, and currently Sheffield United player. I think he's still with Sheffield United at the moment. Scottish international Ollie Burke. There is a wall of text here. I'm not going to go down through each piece on it. I think the biggest things I want to kind of highlight on this, because it would be a really, really boring podcast if I was just rattling off numbers. I will post these under the podcast listing on Twitter and on Twitter if you guys want to reference these as well. But these are quite important because I wanted to take a look at the last 3 seasons for Josh King. And what his games, his minutes, his goals, his assists, his passing types, all that kind of thing, and just take a look at them. The reason for that is because obviously last season was not a season that Josh King will ever remember, I think, as a football player. Previous season was a year in which he struggled, played in a team like they were struggling like Aston Villa in the year previous in 1920. He did still contribute to that Bournemouth team. The year before in 18-19 is statistically his best season in the Premier League as well. So I think it's fair to see the best, the middle, and the not so good for Josh King here. And I think the one thing that I've been able to kind of discern from this is that while I mentioned he does play mostly from the left-hand side, I think the reason that he was pushed out to the left-hand side in the 1920 season was because Bournemouth had gotten into a really good rhythm of having Ryan Fraser at one side. Callum Wilson was playing up top as well. And what it allowed Callum Wilson to do was to drop deep and for Josh King potentially to take his place to kind of alternate with him into the centre forward position. I think they played really, really well like that. When I went back and I looked at some videos of how they played. This is the 1920 season, the season when Bournemouth did get relegated, but Josh King still scored 6 goals and had 4 assists in that season. He played 2011 minutes, should I say, with 26 starts. One thing I think you can say of Josh King is he does tend to have an injury in him, so he's not going to be somebody that you can rely on year in, year out to play and to start 37, 38 games like maybe an Ollie Watkins will. But I think that if Josh King is purchased to play for Aston Villa Football Club, or if he is brought in to play for Aston Villa Football Club, it would definitely much so in the auxiliary positions, maybe to play with that latent pace. He has been registered at clocking up to 36.7 kilometers per as his fastest run in games. That puts him up there with the likes of Theo Walcott in his prime, Adama Traore. I think I saw statistics there of being some of the fastest, one of the fastest times clocked ever in the Premier League. So he does have latent pace. And, you know, Aston Villa maybe lack pace. I think that might be something you might be able to say specifically on the left-hand side, that Aston Villa do lack pace to our attack. And we lack that outlet ball that when teams push up on us, that when we play it long, it's only being played long to Ollie Watkins so that he can try and knock it down to an attacking midfielder, or maybe a McGinn that's coming forward. So maybe if you do have that latent pace to play up top with Ollie Watkins or play just off him from the left-hand side, maybe that might be something that Dean Smith is looking for, to stretch the play a small bit more. Remember, if you stretch that play and you can get teams turning on their heels, it allows our defense to push up. So a lot of the times pace will allow you to be able to defend an awful lot better. And this isn't no secret to anybody. It's not, you know, any black magic that will be developed or would be conjured up on the field. If you were able to get the ball up to the other end of the field and play territory football when you need to against some of the bigger teams, we did it with Agbonlahor for years. He was our outlet to do this. You get the ball up there and that player can hold that ball up for, you know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. It allows our defense to push out. It allows our midfield to regroup. It allows people to get their head in a swivel so they can see where attacking points are coming from. Whereas if you're consistently pushed back and if you're in the mode whereby you're consistently defending the front of your penalty box, as we have been all too often this year, and we've done it really, really well, and that's been fantastic. But you know, to have this outlet to be able to stretch the field of play and to be able to stretch the other team's possession, provided we can hold the ball up there for even a modicum of time up there, it is beneficial, and potentially that's something that Josh King could bring. His passing statistics are so, you know, they're all right. They're nothing great about them. He's very much one of these players as well that he doesn't take an awful lot of shots. He doesn't take an awful lot of shots in any given season. So he's not how am I going to put this? He's not wasteful with the ball, I think is best to say. Maybe that might be something as well that entices a Dean Smith. Think of a Trezeguet on the left-hand side if we needed to pull Jack into the centre. Somebody who's industrious, works up and down that left-hand side. Do we need somebody to do that? I'm not 100% sure. I'm really not. But as I say, the whole point of this was to try and find maybe some reasons or some traits that would bring Josh King to the forefront in our transfer policy. let's take a little look as well. So without just talking here and discussing Josh King against Josh King, because we can see his heat map here from 18-19, 19-20, and 2021. It is pretty varied, and he has been asked to do an awful lot, which spells well for his character, because when he's played minutes, he's played over 2,000 minutes, he's scored goals, he's contributed with assists, he's had very good shot creation actions. As I say, he's not wasteful with his shots. He doesn't take an awful lot of shots, but when he does, 28%, 30%, 39% in 2019, 2020, they go on target. So he does seem to be pretty efficient with his shooting too. But let's see how he stacks up against some of the other Aston Villa players. So here is a slide, and I think you guys can see it now. Here's a slide whereby I've taken Josh King's best Premier League season in 2018-19, and I've put him up against the Aston Villa wide players and Ollie Watkins, because lest we forget that he can play in a centre forward position as well, and he has done an awful lot for Bournemouth. And he has done an awful lot for Norway as well. And I've taken him and I've put him up against the quartet of Aston Villa players there: Trezeguet, El Ghazi, Bertrand Traore, and Watkins. So when we look at when he gets minutes and he gets games, he performs well, as I mentioned, from a goal-scoring point of view. His shot percentage isn't anything to write home about. His shot on target percentage in 18-19 wasn't anything really to write home about, but he didn't take an awful lot of shots for a striker, as I say. He didn't, like Anwar Ghazi he took as many shots as him that season. Bertrand Traore took more shots than him this last season than Josh King did in his best ever season, and he played quite a lot more minutes than El Ghazi and Bertrand Traore. So he doesn't take an awful lot of shots. His shot creation actions per 90 minutes. So does he create goals? Does he create shots for other people or for himself? It's not really there. You see it. He's nowhere near the creation talent of Anwar El Ghazi and Bertrand Traore. And yes, while they do shoot themselves, and that is counted as a shot creation action, still, you shoot, you score. If you don't shoot, you don't score. And while I praised his efficiency with the ball and that he doesn't shoot an awful lot, you kind of want your strikers and your wide men to chip in with goals, as we saw with El Ghazi and Bertrand Traore come in with 17 goals last season. Granted, El Ghazi didn't have any assists. Bertrand Traore had 6 throughout the course of the year. It is something that I think we should look at, and it's maybe not the highest point of Josh King's game. Passing wise, I've put in the passing statistics there across the board. I think the really interesting one here is that the highest pass success rate is Ollie Watkins at 72.8%. Now I know it's negligible across the board as to how much that comes as to how much that the differences between Ollie Watkins and the rest of the players, but look at the amount of minutes that Ollie Watkins played. He played quite a lot of minutes, and he would have had a lot more touches of the ball. So obviously, more touches bring a bigger sample set. So it's harder to have a bigger percentage in instances like that. So this is a really, really interesting, I think, snapshot of where he will play. And to be honest with you guys, I'm going to be really honest. I don't know, do we need Josh King? I don't know, does he fit in with Aston Villa Football Club? I don't know, does he bring anything new to the team other than latent pace? I don't know, does he bring anything else to the team? You put him up against the Trezeguet, and as I say, maybe he is a left-footed Trezeguet, or maybe he is a Trezeguet replacement. Who knows? Cheap. I don't know. He would even be cheaper than Trezeguet. Maybe he's an El Ghazi replacement. Maybe we're looking at moving on El Ghazi. I don't know. But for me, does he bring anything new to the football team based on a 3-year sample set of what he can do? It's open to interpretation, is what I would say. I'm not going to support him if he plays for Aston Villa. I'm going to support every single player that plays for Aston Villa. That's just what I do, and I will remain positive about Josh King, because, as I say, for players like that, all we need is one good season from them. You need one good season or 2 good seasons, and then we can maybe regurgitate, or what am I trying to say here? Re-up, or that that mid-level or that lower level of our squad, consistently churning that piece, that part of the squad. If he comes in and he has a season where he scores 6 goals and has 4 assists, and he plays, he maybe starts like Trezeguet or like El Ghazi, starts 17 games and is involved in 28 games next season, and he's a relative contributor to the team. Well, that's fantastic. At 29, going on 30 years of age, he's not the future of the team. So any contract that he does come in here will be short term, will be a stopgap contract. Maybe Dean Smith and Christian Purslow won't be able to get their striker target that they absolutely see and that they need. Maybe they want to give Wesley more time. I don't know. Maybe Josh King comes in and he is the stopgap there, because let's be real about the whole situation. We've been unlucky, or unlucky isn't the word. We've probably been unprepared slightly with regards to our striker rotation over the last 2 years. Losing Wesley against Burnley, it's down to the bare bones. We had to play Jack up front at times, when Wesley was out before Samata came in. Samata obviously didn't last the pace, went after 6 months and was sold to and went out and loaned to Fenerbahce, and subsequently has gone to them. I think he's gone on a permanent deal. Watkins comes in for big money. Wesley doesn't come back till later in the season. We have a rotation of Watkins and Keenan Davis up front. Not ideal. Maybe Josh King is a stopgap before someone like Brad Young or Louis Barry makes the team. I don't know. Maybe there's succession planning in that point, from that point of view, to say we'll bring in a Josh King that we know can maybe do 65 to 70%. It could be 65 to 70% of an Ollie Watkins, and he comes in and yes, he can play that central striker role and be industrious and chase down those balls and have be decent at pressurizing the defense. And to be honest with you, looking at his pressure rates, it's nowhere near Ollie Watkins. The work Ollie Watkins does up there at 26.5% of a pressure success rate up there, based on 3,328 minutes, is phenomenal work rate up there for a striker. Josh King, on his best season for Bournemouth, he displayed a 19.5% pressure success rate. Now, once again, was he asked to pressure people up there? Was he asked to run around and get on the defenders' cases and the central defensive midfielders' cases? I don't know. Once again, we're looking at traits. We're not scouting the teams that they played for. We're scouting the traits in this player, and the fact that he is all energy, and the fact that he does have a lot of pace. Maybe that is something that Dean Smith thinks that he can do for this team. He can be an able deputy for Ollie Watkins, because much and all as I would love to see Watkins play 37, 38 games every single season, it's look. The body is a fantastic thing, but he's going to break down at some stage, and he will have games where he will be, or periods where he will be out for 2-3 weeks, and we do need an able deputy. And much and all as Keenan Davis became a cult hero last year, and he did get a very, very important goal and a very, very important assist last year, I think that Josh King would be an upgrade on him. But does he really fit into this team? Does he really come in and cement a place for this team? I'm not sure. My best case scenario that I think for Josh King is that he does come in. He is, as I say, an understudy to Ollie Watkins, international player, lots of experience playing in the league, and he's a stopgap between maybe when Louis Barry is going to be ready to step up to the team. Maybe he comes in a 1-year deal. There's positives to doing that. Maybe you front load his contract, give him a 1-year deal and say, listen, at the end of the season, we have an option for a second year if you do perform well. If you don't perform well, still, look, you're only just 30 and a half years of age. You still have some fuel in the tank. Maybe you go to the States. Maybe you go to another league. Maybe you go somewhere in the continent. He has been linked with Fenerbahce. Maybe that's the kind of deal that Aston Villa can do for him and say, we will put you in the shop window in the Premier League here so that you can get maybe a bigger money deal or a longer contract deal, maybe in Turkey, maybe in the States or somewhere along those lines, so that you can extend your career and make more money. Make a lot more money for yourself before as your your career starts to wind down? I don't know. These are all the questions I think that are going to be answered. But I think for me, I had to come on and talk about Josh King. I had to give my feelings on him. For me, as I say, I could just about understand why he would be brought in. It would be an underwhelming signing, I think, for me, based on the fact that it's and even saying that he would be an understudy to Watkins, I can completely understand that. I would completely support him. This is not a witch hunt against Josh King. I would completely support him. Just on the face of it, does he offer anything different to the players that we have in the squad? I'm just not 100% sure. But Josh King is somebody that has been linked with Aston Villa Football Club, and we will see if this does ever come to fruition or if this is just going to be one of those chases that is tabloid-led and there is no truth in it. So, guys, I just want to say thank you very much to everybody for everything you do for the podcast. Thanks for all the watches on YouTube. Thanks for all the listens to the audio-based podcast. It's been a busy few days. As and when we see transfer links, I will keep on coming out with my views on these players. I will try and do statistical analysis of them. I will talk about what I've seen. Josh King, I didn't specifically watch an awful lot of games of him in preparation for this. Seen enough of him over the years to know what he does well and what he doesn't do well, but he is as I say, he was somebody I wanted to talk about. I'm about halfway through one when James Ward-Prowse. I just don't know if that transfer is actually going to go ahead. I don't know if that is something that Villa are 1,000,000% invested in. It would be absolutely fantastic. So we may see something like that over the weekend if I get 10 minutes to sit down and to finish off my analysis on that one as well. But thanks ever so much for everybody for listening to the podcast, watching on YouTube. Please give us a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please continue to listen to the audio versions. We will be alternating between the two. It's just easier to do these transfer ones via YouTube because of the statistical analysis and the spread and the slides that I'm showing. But thanks so much for everything you've done. We have had a ton of subscribers on YouTube. I think we've had something like 400 subscriptions in the last week or 2 weeks or something like that. We're nearly at 1,000 subscriptions. It would be absolutely fantastic. I think we're at 750 or somewhere odd. If you know of anybody you think you would love this, please tag them in underneath it on the Twitter post. Please try and get it out there as best you can. But thank you so much for everything you do. It's really overwhelming, the support that you have for the podcast. And that's really going to do it for today, guys. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy whatever you're doing. The transfer news is going to come thick and fast, and Euro 2021 is on the horizon, so football is going nowhere, and I'm sure we will be linked with every Tom, Dick and Harry over the course of the Euro 2021, and we will be here to bring you analysis on as many of them as we physically can. So thank you very much for everything you do for the podcast, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.